And now how many times you, as the
Right.
mortgage broker, is saying to them, I know I said $500,000 for this refi, but you're actually only going to get $300,000.
Right.
So it is annoying. It's annoying we ask for so much documents, but we're doing it because we're the professionals. We need to ensure we're getting the right numbers to give you the right numbers, so we're not touching that commitment 10 more times. You know, it's embarrassing.
Or coming back and saying, well, now I can only put you on a B deal.
Yeah, oh, that's the word.
And
or
then now
private.
Hit it. That's what I'm talking about.
Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
All right, this is Real Talk with Carmen Costa. I'm going to have to mention this is our second take because Jamie made a total mistake. So anyways, second take. Let's go through this.
Good help is hard to
we
find.
should actually throw in our actual first one because it was better, right?
I think so.
It was better. But
think so.
anyways,
But hey.
today I have on Eric. Eric is new to the team. Well, you're not new. I always say you're like the baby, but are you the baby? You're not the baby anymore.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Depends. How do you classify baby?
Right?
Like, I don't know. I got a lot of hair, so maybe I don't know.
But Eric joined us, Eric Spada joined us in November. He had, when we sat down and talked, I love what you care so much for your client, right? And that's what, was like, he's amazing. He knows what he's doing because all it takes is just that, that one aspect where you care enough for the client that you treat them like family. And that's what you said. You were like, I want to treat every client as family.
Yeah, we take a family first approach, right?
Right.
We want to be the family that you invite to
That's
Christmas.
what you said. Yes.
And Thanksgiving.
Right?
Right.
We don't want that family that's,
Yeah.
But I did want to mention one thing that was interesting. It's Spada Mortgage Group. And you're out in Binbrook,
Yes.
right? And the one thing we always said is we're taking over Binbrook, right?
We should.
We are.
We will.
We will. But I love the, I want to get your perspective on what you offer the client and what's important to you for that client.
Well, so, I mean, it's really basic for me is making sure that the client is well taken care of, understanding their needs, not only today, but, 3 years, 5 years down the road, and making sure that, it's the right solution for them. I just have a hard time in just proposing something for the sake of proposing something. If it doesn't fit and I can't sit well with it, then I won't do it.
I love that.
And it's just, I don't know. It's for me, it's really hard to articulate. It's just, if I wouldn't do it myself and if it's not good for me, it's not good for the client. So
I love that. I love that approach about you because it's like the family approach. Right?
And I'm passionate about it.
And you are, and
I
you're
am.
so passionate about it.
Sometimes
and
to a fault.
Yeah, no, it's good because you care. And, when you first started calling, I'm like, okay, he cares so much for the client that you worry about the solutions you're putting in front. You're like, are you sure? Is this okay? And it's not a bad thing because you're looking at it to find the best solution for the client.
Yeah, I'll beat
Right?
it down. I'll beat it down.
That's right.
And I
And I
drive
love
myself
that.
mental about it.
Yeah, but I love how you do that. But I want to understand, you're not just Binbrook. You're
Yeah.
everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But you do specialize in you want to be the Binbrook guy.
I want to be the Binbrook guy, but I mean, I do have clients in Windsor, so that's okay. Back
And that's
home.
what I wanted to bring you to is Windsor. I would love to one day open up an office in Windsor. We
Let's
will
do it right now.
Let's
go.
Let's just go open it.
Done.
But I wanted to understand a little bit about, if anybody's listening to the podcast, Windsor,
Yes.
right? What is Windsor about, right?
Well, Windsor's about, I mean, it's gone through a rebirth, if you will. There was a big announcement yesterday with a EV.
Phoenix.
The big rising. Automotive capital of Canada is where it started. The proximity to Essex County where, you got Tomato Country, which is Leamington. You got the border, which is right there. So we have a lot of cross-border traffic. When I was younger, about 20 years ago, lots of commuters back and forth, lots of kids coming to the city, lots of people going to the casino, bingo, etc. And then, 9/11 happened and things happened. So it really took a turn. And then the automotive sector really took a turn. And what once was like 6 or 7 manufacturing facilities has dwindled down to like a couple.
That's
so
crazy.
And the casino's been down because of COVID and whatnot. So, and now they're revitalizing with the big announcement that they're going to bring 2,500 jobs to Windsor with this EV plant that they're building in cooperation, and I can never get the name right because they changed the name, but the old Chrysler, Fiat, whatever it's called now. So that's exciting for the city. I mean, the market down there from a housing perspective, I know when I moved up here 11 years ago, I was sticker shocked with all the housing prices here versus what I was getting down there. And now they're seeing that and they're still sticker shocked. They can't fathom the pricing that they're getting.
I don't know if you knew, I was in a meeting yesterday with the Windsor Credit Union. Great guys.
Windsor Family Credit Union, yeah.
So they're going to be one of our lending partners.
Oh, nice.
I'm so excited. That's going to be an announcement for the team. You've got the information. I didn't know they were interviewing me while I was sitting like on Zoom with them. I was so shocked. At the end, he's like, okay, well, we'll sign you up. I'm like, wait, I thought I was going to, he's like, no, we interview people. But he was telling me something interesting, and I don't know if you would recall, in 2009, there was a big fraud, not fraud, but you would say in the mortgage industry, they were known in Windsor. There was a lot of like fraudulent going on. He's like, we're picking up, we're changing that stigma that they've had. Right. And I was going to do a little bit more research before this podcast. I didn't get a chance, but it's interesting because he said like it's changed. Like they had a branch and now he's changed it into an underwriting unit.
Oh,
now
nice.
It's just broker channels. So he's like, we used to have a branch, but due to COVID, they changed it over to an underwriting. And he goes, that's how busy they're getting. And
That's
I was
awesome.
shocked. I was like,
awesome.
that's amazing to know. But they are such a good partnership because the one thing I liked about them, and he said something that was important. He goes, we are like family. And he's like, the way you talk about your team when we're interviewing people. And I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't know this was an interview because I do fumble in interviews. But I'm like, thank God I didn't know. I just spoke the truth of what we are about. And he's like, that's exactly how we are with our team here, the underwriting team. And I love that about him. I was like, oh, this is amazing. He goes, in Windsor, we're all family.
Yeah, it's a tight-knit community,
That's
right?
what he said.
Very tight.
And that's why I wanted to ask you.
There's a good and bad to Windsor, right?
Yeah.
The good is that you can go from East End to West End in about 3 minutes, which is nice. You don't have to deal with traffic that we have here. But the bad is that it is a tight-knit community, so everybody knows what you do.
100%.
And so if you do something shady,
they know.
It's
and
like wildfire.
He goes, we know our brokers here.
Yep.
And I thought that was crazy because he's like, we know.
Yep.
We know the lawyers.
Yep.
We know.
No,
and
it's...
I'm like, and I wanted to ask your opinion. I'm like, so I thought Windsor was big. And
geographically speaking, it is. Population density, it's kind of spread out. But I mean, again, the reality is that because it is small and people know what's going on without really knowing what's going on, they know what's going on, if that makes sense.
That's what he said, 100%.
Yeah.
And he was saying that. So I just found it interesting because when I spoke, like you could see in the beginning when they started the interview, and I was telling Christian, you could see the guy's demeanor. And then as soon as he's like,
relaxed.
What are you about? And then I explained the dynamics of us being family. And I treat my agents as family. Like we're all together. We're tight.
Yep.
When somebody goes down, we're all together. We're working on a deal. If it goes sideways, we're trying to help. He's like, I like that. And then both of them automatically changed like 30 minutes. And Christian's like, I wanted to be rehired by you, right? And the guy said to me, he's like, don't take my branch. Like, he's like, are you interviewing him? And I'm like, there's the possibility of everything. I said, it's more about like just being a family. And and that's important to me. And I always say like, when I saw that about them, I'm like, with some of the lenders, we had to like say, forget it. I don't remember. I was talking about this with Jamie. I opted not to sign up some lenders because I didn't like what they stood for. This came in, like I put it out to the universe and they came in. And I was like, I love these guys. They're all, and they lend. They're like, he's like, we'll go to London. We'll go. And
they just opened up a branch in Kitchener, Cambridge.
That's what he said. He goes, guess what? We're doing, I can't say it, but there's a lot more happening. And I'm so excited because I'm right alongside with them. And I'm like, I want to do anything with you guys because you guys have that team dynamic. And the two of them were just amazing human beings.
I can tell you from dealing with them in my past 15 or so years ago, very different dynamic with the culture there. I know there's still some of the same people that are around. So when you deal with them on a business level, they operate differently than most large organizations. And, 15 years ago, they weren't large.
He said,
but they were big,
Yeah,
right? So they were
that's
kind of
exactly
in
what he
that
said,
little gray
yeah.
area of what size am I?
Yeah.
And you know, they were always reassuring, but they were always forward thinking. Always.
You have no
Always
idea.
forward-thinking.
Like talking to them, I said to Christian, I'm like, thank you so much for putting me in contact with them, because when you put forward thinking people in a room, magic happens. I always say this. I'm like, magic happens, right? And sometimes, you know, I always say like I can come off like way too positive or too confident when I'm like, I know our first deal and I was like, don't worry, it'll happen this way. And you're like, no, this isn't. And I'm like, Eric, it'll happen this way because I know it's just a repeat of people's behaviors, right? I just like that you grasped the knowledge and you were like, and you moved forward and you were like, I get it. I got it. And it's like, you clicked and then it went forward. And it's amazing to see how you flourished because you did. As soon as your mind, you shifted. And that's what I said with mortgage brokers and agents. When you get a good forward thinking agent, you know that person's going to get that deal done for you. They're not going to just say, hey, you know what? It's not going to work out. I can't do anything for you and walk away. They're going to be like, you know what? Let's bring it over here. Maybe
well, it's
we
the
can do something.
passion, right? It's the passion to
Right?
go, I got to do the right thing and I got to uncover every stone and I got to sort through
100%.
and beat all the bushes and go, okay, I've exhausted all measures and means.
100%.
Sorry, but it's not the first no, it's not the second no, it's the 25th no. Then you
100%.
go, I can't do anything, you know, and it's about doing the right thing.
And
that-
you do, though, and that's what I'm saying. And you center yourself with a lot of good partners, too. I know you have a great lawyer that you deal with. You have great partners that you deal with that you yourself are going to interview on your podcast, which we will tie in his channel. But I think it's awesome because you're doing all the activities. And I love this because me and Dee were talking this. I'm going to say Dee, and you're like, here we go. She's going to mention Dee.
I can't even have a podcast without her entering.
But Dee's right. She said something this morning because I messaged her. I said, Dee, man, you're like getting up there, man. Like you're almost top 3. And she's like, shut up. Am I? So she calls me in the morning. I said, yeah, Dee, the numbers came out. You did really well. And she said something to me. She goes, one thing clicked as soon as she goes, I follow everything you say. She's like, you used to say this and I'd be like, whatever. And she'd do her own thing. And I'd be like, Dee, trust me, if you do these activities, like abundance comes, manifestation, like it all comes. And she started it, like, and she's like, Carm, I'm telling you, I'm going to be number 1. I'm like, you are going to be number 1, but Eric's going to like knock you out. No, I'm kidding.
The chosen one.
The chosen
The
one,
chosen
right?
one.
But no, it's key. And I think as you grasp the understanding, it makes me so happy to see your pipeline. I'm like, man, he's getting so busy because you are so forward thinking with how you market, how you do things. And I love that you don't make everything, you know, a big deal. You're like, it's going to work, right? And you've got that mentality where you're like, you're trusting that it's going to work.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
you're doing good with it.
Well, the reality is that there's always going to be a little bit of doubt. Right?
Yeah,
there's
of
going to be a little
course.
skepticism.
We're human.
We are, exactly.
Yeah.
But you do a great job of kind of centering people and calming people down. I mean, you've yelled at me a couple times, but you're like, Mom,
We're
it's
so
okay. It's
European,
okay.
though.
I don't know if it was yelling or just talking loud. I'm not really sure still.
Remember the retake? Will you please put it here? The retake, because I'm so loud. All right, this is Real Talk with Carmen Costa.
But, you know, you do a good job of reassuring people. And, you know, at the end of a conversation, you sit there and you hang up and, okay, I'll trust it and I'll follow it and we'll see what happens.
And you did. Eric, man, you're doing so awesome.
Well,
Like, come
I mean,
on,
you know,
man.
we still got a lot to grow, and Binbrook is a growing community, number 1.
But when you do the right thing, when you treat people right and people know you, who you are,
Well,
your heart, they will come.
It's a slow way to go,
build it,
right?
they will come, right?
I don't know if you remember that video that I sent you, the first video that I did
I loved it, yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
You know, it was slow and low, right? Just cook it slow and low and let it all happen like with the way it's supposed to happen, which is not the easiest way to do it. Because
100%.
this market's got a lot of
Yeah.
interesting people in there, right? Interesting professionals. And I just don't want to be one of those interesting professionals. So, you know, you're taking the harder road and you're...
This is my life. This has been, Jamie's been with me for like 6 years. This has been my life.
Yeah.
You know, you look at some of the people around you that have run businesses and you're like, I can't do that, right? So, you know, we have done it. I've always said, you know, and Dee's watched it, I've always said, this is what I got. I got to stand by my principles.
Right.
And that's what I mean about you. Like when I do interview people, and interesting enough, I did interview somebody a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, you know what, we're not a good fit. And he like the guy tripped out. I'm like, I'm sorry, we're not a good fit, blah, blah, blah. But I get to make those choices because if I don't see, and something I said yesterday to the credit union when I was interviewing with them, if I interview with you, I already know if you're going to change.
Right.
Like, yeah, okay, it'll be difficult maybe the first 3 or 4 months. But if it's hard to change somebody thinking,
Yeah,
I mean, not just thinking,
Their
the way
fundamentals.
they think, right? Yep. And I'm like, if they really want to do it, they will do it. And if they do it, they will be super successful, right? Because I sometimes do it where I doubt myself. I'm like, okay, is this the right move? Like, am I supposed to do this? Like when people leave the team, it's hard for me. And I'm like, wait, maybe that's a good move for them, right?
Yeah.
And you know what it's like. You're like, oh, but I'm losing them. I freaking love my kids, right?
Right.
And that's what I'm saying to you. Like, I trust the process. But even 7 years when I learned about this process, I'm like, is it the right move? Like 7 years later, you're right. We're human. We doubt.
I remember our first meeting. All I said to you is, I don't care about anything else.
You're right.
How are you going to help me grow?
Love it.
That's it. I don't care about anything else.
I see grand success. I've always told you though, like the good people in the end, like regardless if there's all this happening around you,
Right.
in the end, the good people stand, right? In the end, right?
Everything comes to the top anyway, right? So whether it's good or
100%.
bad, it's all going to show.
And that's what I said. Like we had over 12,000 agents join in the last 2 years.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
Right? And I'm like, because everybody thinks, what's your best 5-year fixed? And we talked about this all the time on this podcast. What's your best 5-year fixed? And it's like, where did solutions go?
Yep.
And when you come to me, I love it. You're like the most organized human being. I'm like, wow, I should take notes on this guy.
Don't say that to Chantel, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Forgot about Chantel. But yeah, no, I'm like, he's so smart because you put it all together and then you're like, okay, let's put an action plan. Let's look at all the solutions. You don't just say, what's your best 5-year fix?
Well, it's
you
painful.
Work for it,
it's
man.
painful though, because people just want a quick answer. They don't want to talk. They just go, hey, this is what I got. This is what I need. What are you going to do for me?
But is that the right product?
But that's the thing is, and that's why my approach is going to be the long approach. It's going to be a long game. And I know that, and I'm prepared for that. And I'm okay with that because I don't want to just do things for the sake of doing them. To me, it's much bigger than that. And before I got into the industry, I talked to some people and I heard some of their stories, and I was like mortified by all this stuff because then I would talk to people that I
we've
trust.
all been through that though, Eric.
But I mean,
you've gone through the mortgage process and you're like, what the?
Yeah, like
right?
Why and
right?
how and are you sure? And then I talk to you or I talk to somebody else. I'm like, this is the situation. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. And it's like, but then you can't convince that client otherwise.
But
because they're fixated on, well, they said yes, and you're Spada Mortgage Group, you're asking me 50 questions. They asked me 3, and they said this. I don't know, like, why do I have to answer all these things? Like, we have that one client, right, where she's still kind of confused as to why she's got to produce this information, and I keep trying to tell her, well, they didn't tell me this over there, and it's like, well.
Here's the thing, though. In the end, though, an underwriter is going to ask for all those documents.
They will.
So maybe I'm front, but then it's going to slam into the last 2 weeks, and you're rushing to get it. And I've always said to Dee, because she would get so upset being my sister, she's like, why don't you just get the application and credit bureau? And I'm like, no. Are you kidding me? No. I want documents front. And talking to the credit union, I let them know. He's like, we just, if you want, like, you don't have to send the docs right away. Through FileLogix, you send the application, credit bureau goes through, and I'm like, no, we don't do that here. No. My guys, before they come to me to deal run, I need full documents up front. Imagine how many deals are you processing over there, bud? And you turn around and that broker comes back and gives you docs that are half the income.
Right.
Now, how many times have you touched that commitment? And now
3,
how many
4
times you, as the mortgage broker, is saying to them, I know I said $500,000 for this refi, but you're actually only going to get $300,000.
Right.
So it is annoying. It's annoying we ask for so much documents, but we're doing it because we're the professionals. We need to ensure we're getting the right numbers to give you the right numbers, so we're not touching that commitment 10 more times. It's embarrassing.
Or coming back and saying, well, now I can only put you on a B deal.
Yeah, oh, that's the word.
And
or
then now
private.
And now I need fees.
Yeah.
And now I need all
now
this.
You're committed.
And now
right?
you got 48 hours before you take possession of the house. And
that's what I mean, right? So for me, it's like, yes, it's a slow process. And I used to do this. If you thought like fraud is on the rise now or now it's hard, you weren't here like 7 years ago when we were doing. Like I would say to Jamie, I'd be in tears. Like, how are these people getting away with this?
But at 7 years ago, were you coming to work uphill both ways
100%.
in snow without shoes?
100%.
Oh, wow. That's hard.
And I walked here with no shoes.
I didn't even have a laptop. I still had a roll of quarters in my pocket to make phone calls.
Oh my God.
It's like she's 87.
I'm like, listen, you know what? You're out of control. I love it. No, but I honestly, I'm going to be honest with this. I see the success that TCG has had. Like Jamie and I started, and I'd be like, Jamie, when am I going to get everything? And he's like, whoa, relax, man. Slow and steady, man. Like social media doesn't work that fast. You remember the first conversation. I was like, now? Am I getting right now? And he's like, no, we're only 2 months in. What's wrong with you? This is ROI. Is it ROI? I always say, is it ROI?
Yeah, return on investment.
Yeah,
that's
ROI,
right.
CARM, ROI. And I'm like, he gives me a Gary V book. I'm like, I didn't read it. But I was like, who is this guy? What's going on? So I followed him. I'm like, easier to follow the guy than read his book, right? But with that, it was like, I get it now. Like I look at him, I'm like, okay, he wasn't, he's right. Like the way we started, the way we did things differently. Okay, it makes sense. But I mean, for my agents, I want the best for them. But you know how hard it is.
It is.
In a competition where I've had agents where they come to me and they're like, oh, you're like the most expensive person out there. I'm like, probably. And then you have other agents that come in. Like I had Chantel, I've had people that come from other brokerages and they're like, how are you even sustaining, surviving with what you're doing for us, right? And I'm like, it's weird because like I said to you 2 weeks ago, I had this guy come and when I had to get my lawyer involved, I'm like, I can't, like, bro, like you're too aggressive. That's what we don't want. And that's what I was saying. I'm like, I'm so expensive. Have you done your research, right? Like
I could tell you hands down for the support. I mean, from the group messages, all 74 of them that we're part of, depending which. We have our own, and we're going to add another one.
We're doing another one.
Why not? From all that, the Motivational Mondays, all the lender and the insurance meetings that we have, even if you were as expensive as the brokerage that I came from, even if you were, because you're not, you're providing 100 times more value.
That's what I was saying. Like my lawyer said to me, he's like, what? I'm like, it was a phone conversation, an email, but I read people. I'm a reader. Right. I read people, and I'm like, I said to Lisa, I'm like, yeah, we're not going to do this. I said, I need to figure out a way. The response came. I'm like, perfect opportunity. Tons of brokerages out there. You're more than welcome to. And you're like, everybody has rights to interview. Everybody does. But I also need to have people understand I have a right to refuse to hire.
Yeah.
I own the company. So, and I think people and talking about this, and I brought this up because I'm like, I'm going to talk about this on the pod. And Lisa's like, I'm not naming names, but it's just a funky meeting. It was weird because to the point where I can handle every situation. I had to get my lawyer involved. Like I had to get him involved because this guy was not leaving me alone. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I it's an elite team. This team's elite because I spent a lot of my sweat and blood with them. Like I want to work with them. But when you're under the team, it's because you are that human being that has a great heart and you can change. Like you can change. You'll make the changes, right? And like I said about like you, in such a short time, like you are so busy and you're like, this is just, it's busy, but because you're good, right?
Wow.
It is. You're good. You have a great heart. And what people don't understand and I think it's going to come to light in a couple of years, it'll come to light. You want to deal with good human beings.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't you?
Why would you want to deal with somebody and be like, what's your best 5-year fix? Like, that's like the most dangerous thing to do because the people that are offering the best 5-year fix are the predators.
Well, it's
I'm like, when you're talking rate, they're predator lending. Like, please know that's a snag to snag you in and do the flip of B to private deals.
You're
financing that way.
The first time I had that question asked to me, I said, well, it depends. Do you want something that you can take with you? Or do you want something that you're going to have to give your firstborn back in order to get out of? Which one do you want?
100%.
Well, I don't know. What's the difference? I don't understand. It's like, well, that's why we ask a lot of
Predator
questions.
lending. That's
we
called
ask
the
a lot of
snake.
questions. And people don't understand. Half a basis point on an interest rate doesn't make a big difference on your payment.
No.
It really doesn't. 2.5 versus 2, 3 versus 2.5. It's not big, but what's critical is portability.
100%.
Being able to just, hey, listen, I'm going to
100%.
sell my house and I'm going to go to Florida and that's all I'm going to do, or whatever. I'm going to buy an RV or whatever. Being able to just have the flexibility, or
But people don't do that.
They
It's
don't-
an instant gratification.
they don't care.
It's what is the best rate. And when people do that to me, I'm like, you know what? I have a choice. I can educate the person, I will.
Right.
And they have the choice to go elsewhere. But I don't sell myself short. Like last week, without a doubt, I was like, yeah, Lisa's like, no, we're not doing it. And I won't do it because I know what I offer the team.
Right.
All right. I'm constantly in the trenches with you guys. Like I do my own book of business. I'm going through the same thing. Those 2 days where, the 2 deals got dropped, I picked them up. I closed them, not private. A principal broker didn't close them private. I closed them on the A side, right? Like I closed them. Like this is what you need to understand. 2 days, I was sweat and blood right next to my agent, even, like assisting them to get them to close those deals. That's what I do. I offer the protection around them.
You helped me on a Sunday, and then
100%.
on the Monday, right? And then you called me on the Wednesday,
100%.
and then I was getting annoyed. No, I'm just kidding.
And then I added you to a chat.
then I added me
Like,
to
you know
another
what,
chat.
Eric? Between you and Dee, both of you guys
That's
are going
it.
in a chat.
That's it.
The oldest
Just gonna be
can
the
be-
kids. The kids chat. That's it.
No,
but
but-
you do get in the trenches. You do.
100%.
You do, and you're busy. And we all know that you're busy. So for you
Yeah,
to
but
still.
my agents, I'm not busy for my agents. And I say this all the time. Like Zoraine's like, I will drop everything for my agents. Unless I'm dying. Like Monday, Tuesday, I was
you were
dead.
out.
Oh, I've never had a bad headache like that. But if I'm out, like I'm not coherent, I'm just gonna survive trying to get through that. But
Right.
I mean, when it comes to the agents, but it honestly, I want to touch back on this whole snag predator, right? Because and when when that happens, if something sounds too good to be true, and you said this to me the other day, if it sounds too good to be true, and I said this to you, it's probably false.
If it walks like a duck, quacks
Yeah.
like a duck, it's not a goose or a dog.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I just, I love the fact that you educate your clients. I love the fact that you will sit down. Like you told me you had clients in your house. I'm like, you're like the best, man. I'm like, are you serious?
Come over. It's COVID. Whatever. It's what's best for you. Let's sit down. But the funny thing is that's dangerous. Not the COVID. Well, the COVID
Yeah.
is, but it's dangerous educating them because it scares them.
It does. You're
It does,
right.
and that's why it's hard because
You're right.
You know, there's a probably better than 50-50 chance. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to explain GDS, TDS, how it gets calculated, what you need to do. Look, I'm going to turn my monitor and let's run through this scenario and let's do it your way and then let's do it my way. There's at least 50-50 chance they're going to go, this is too
Just
much
gonna go
for
to
me.
the easiest
Give me the
route.
guy that says yes.
Yeah.
And that guy is now in a pickle.
It is, yeah, and that's what I'm saying to you. Like for you, I would say, just continue doing what you do best. I feel like, if you can do Windsor, do Windsor. Do Binbrook, do everywhere.
Why
right?
not?
Yeah, I
Take
think,
over the world.
No, but you're somewhere else. Where's your sign located?
My sign. What sign?
The sign that you have a sign. There's a gym.
Oh, yes, in Port Colborne.
See, he's everywhere.
Yep.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, that just got put up. That's why I couldn't remember.
So let's take a picture of it. Let's put it up.
Let's go.
Right.
Let's
so,
go.
no, I honestly, one thing I did want to ask you, Eric, if you could give advice to the audience, what would be the advice you have for them pertaining to mortgages, right? And being the expert.
Well, if you are in the industry, the only thing that I can say is, and it doesn't really matter what industry you're in. I've been in sales 25 years, and the only thing that I carry with me besides the knowledge is the passion to do what's right for the client. That's the fundamental. If I can't do that, doesn't matter what it is, I won't do it. So
it.
if you're in the industry, just make sure that you could take my line if you want, but I'm going to charge you. There's going to be a royalty fee. No, just doing what's right for the client, regardless if you're going to lose the deal or not. That's the most important part because that's your integrity, right? Having the courage to follow your own convictions is is fundamental. So as long as you're doing right, if you're a client, just heed advice. If somebody,
I love that he did the split advice. You know what? That's amazing. Continue on with the client. I cut him off.
you did. But if you're the client, heed the advice, right? Don't be afraid of it. Just understand it and understand where it's coming from. Be cautious of the ones that don't want to give you advice. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to understand your full scope. What's your plan in 3 to 5 years? You have twins that are 3 years old. Are you staying or are you leaving? Like, what do you want to do? It's those ones that you got to really worry about, that all they want to do it's a burn and turn. Just get me the mortgage, get it funded, let me get my commission check, and I'm going to, now you were number 1, let's go to number 2, let's go to number 3. You want that client that's really going to, that mortgage broker that's really going to sit down and understand you as an individual, as a family, what is important to you, et cetera. That's it. I mean, it's not fun. Sometimes it's advice you don't want to hear, but it's the important advice.
I know, and I love that you touched on that. It's the advice you may not want to hear, but I've been in the business 20 plus years, and I'll tell you, not for nothing, people come back and they're like, I should have done what you told me.
Right.
I should have listened to you. Okay, that's good, but now they're my client for life.
Right.
So they end up being your client for life, and that's worth it. So, but at the time, in retrospect, when you're there, you're like, why didn't I just do it? Why didn't I just make that sale? No. But you don't. And I never did. I've never made that sale. And, I don't want to. And I won't be, this week alone, I had an agent message me and she's like, they can go no conditions, right? I'm like, what? Are we still doing this? Come on, man. You know me. I'm like, no. I'm not putting my name on that. Right. They have to put conditions. The client can make that decision if they don't want to. My advice as the mortgage broker, absolutely not.
Right.
Right. And I'm with the team that I have a lot more confidence to say things, right? And that comes with time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does come with time. So, Eric, you know what? I feel blessed, even though you're Tim Hortons and I'm Starbucks.
I'm Canadian.
I feel blessed that you chose TCG, man. I feel blessed that you're a part of the team. I think you're honestly awesome. I think everything you do is awesome. I think the passion that you have for clients is amazing. And I hope that people start to recognize that.
Well,
Recognize how much you care for the clients. So, hit up Spada Mortgage Group. See how I do that? Please put it right there. Yeah. Anyways, we'll put up your contact info. We'll also put it in the description. But Eric, pleasure speaking to you today. You're awesome. I think these bloopers today are going to be amazing. I'm so excited.
The best.
It's just going to be 10 minutes of bloopers. Yeah. But like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. We are on Spotify. So look for us. Carmen.
Not Spotify. Just to be clear.
Anyways, yeah, so hit us up. Thank you so much for listening. Much respect. Are we ready for this? Yes, my son told me. I did that for my
Gangsta.
son.
Word.
Shut your jerk, I swear.
Yeah.
Hello?
Can you see him going down with no helmet?
I'm so old.
I shaved. I showered.
You shaved. You don't even look like you shaved. Let me do. Did you touch my hair? You can look wherever you want. Why do you have to stare at me, man? Why is he staring at me? No, I'm just kidding. All right. This is going to be the best bloopers. Wrong. Son of a...
All right, gentlemen, welcome to the stage. Jamie.
All right, now we got to start this again.
Now this is rehearsed.